Hello there, and thanks for joining me in this lesson. This is part one of a two-part lesson dealing with alternatives for despite when giving contrasts. Over the two lessons, we will see how we can use despite, but, in spite of, although, even though, however, nevertheless, no matter, regardless of, and we'll also see and yet. Along with this YouTube channel and my podcast, there are now over 120 free lessons available for you. If you would like more of my content and exclusive worksheets, tips and recommendations, please consider supporting my work on Patreon. You can find a link to my Patreon page in the description below for more information on the benefits of supporting my work. And now, without further ado, here are the contrasting words and expressions I'm going to cover in this lesson. Despite, but, in spite of, and although. Now, let's get contrasting. You are probably familiar with some of these, but I'm going to show you how you can switch between them in sentences showing a contrast while keeping the same meaning. Okay, so here's the first example with despite. Despite the terrible weather, the event was not cancelled. Okay, so this sentence tells us that the weather was bad, but the event was not cancelled. We could also say the event was not cancelled despite the terrible weather. So despite is very popular in contrasting sentences and replaces the word but. Despite the high price, she decided it was worth buying. It was expensive, but she decided it was worth buying, or she decided to buy it. So but and despite are the more common contrasting words we can use. Despite is more formal than but. Now, in spite of is used in exactly the same way as despite, but some people get confused between the two, and I often hear learners say despite of. Now remember, with despite, there is no of, but you do need to use of when using in spite. Okay, so in spite of the high price, she decided it was worth buying. Okay, so our next alternative for these options will be although. So I could say, despite the rain, I had to take the dog outside. Although it was raining, I had to take the dog outside. Now I cannot say although the rain. So here are some more. Although it was expensive, I wanted to buy it. Although she studied hard, she failed the exam. Now you can reverse the two sentence clauses with although. She failed her exam although she studied really hard. Despite studying hard, she failed her exam. She studied hard, but she failed her exam. Now back to although, you can also include the word still in the sentence to give more emphasis to the contrast. Although she studied very hard, she still failed her exam. Although it was expensive, I still wanted to buy it. So that's it for this part of the lesson. Look out for part 2 for more alternatives for despite. With even though, however, nevertheless, regardless, no matter, and yet. And if you have found this lesson useful, please give it a like, share with your friends, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And also check out all the links in the description below, as I'm sure you'll find something of interest for you. And I'll see you in part 2.